Good evening, Tim with you on a late show here, 11 p.m. Central. And what you saw here earlier, this was the sea breeze that came through. Oh, there goes a laser printer. So there comes the sea breeze from south to north, from left to right, looking like a little bit of a wall as it approaches, and you can see the cloud movements in that thing. So it was pretty ominous, but we didn't get any rain out of that. So what does it look like outside? We'll go to my outside cam. And there you go. There's the view outside. And don't see much. Sometimes we can see a star out in that star field there. But not a whole lot going on there. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening up in Oklahoma. We've got an MCS moving through Oklahoma and southern Kansas. You can see the southerly wind back behind that. And the leading edge of that squall line looks like it runs from about Bartlesville to about Elk City and down to Childress. And it appears that's probably a front driving that MCS. Now, the other question I would look at when I'm analyzing this weather is, what kind of dew points do we have out ahead of the squall line? Well, the dew points feeding this thing appear to be in the upper 60s. I can see 66 at Altus and 66 at Oklahoma City. That might be 68 there. And then you get out towards Tulsa and we start picking up some 70s. Now, there is some better moisture off to the southeast. You can see these dew points around Idabel and maybe Texarkana, 75. So that's almost on tap to feed that area of storms. However, I'm not too sure whether it'll make it or not. And also some very good moisture there at Dallas. Now, one way we can plot the moisture field is by plotting mixing ratio, which is similar to dew point. And we're plotting this in digital atmosphere, by the way. There's the mixing ratio plot, and it's a little bit smooth, I think, here. I can probably knock that back a bit. Yeah, see, here's the options for the analysis. And there's different ways you can go about doing that. You can bring down the coarseness of the field to bring out the detail. So let me try that one more time. And it still looks a little bit squarish there. I'm trying to figure out what the reason for that might be. Oh, two smoothing passes. Okay. Yeah, that will make quite a difference there. So we're plotting the mixing ratio field. Oh, that's weird. Oh, yeah, actually, it should look that way. I've been knocking it back to where there's like complete noise in the data set. So anyway, we'll just kind of pass on that and head on to the chart sequence. And this will be kind of a short webcast here. There's the slight risk we have there for Oklahoma. Got a couple of severe watch boxes in that area. Maybe we can zoom in on those and look at the newest watch. And there's the graphic right there. And if you're wondering about the weather behind these storms, well, they don't give a whole lot in this product. And here's the trick. What you want to do is go back to the MCD, the convective discussion. And it's going to be right there. And there's none in effect, but you can call up the MCDs for, at least I would hope you can call them up for today. And there they are. So you pick out the one corresponding to that watch. And I think that's probably, yeah, that's 9:17 p.m. And you can see that this will give you kind of an extended discussion about what they're thinking here. So definitely go into those MCDs. They do have their value, and you can see at the top, they show the map at just before the issuing time and shows you the conditions that they were looking at. Okay, let's check out the hemispheric pattern. Well, several days ago we were seeing ridging out to the west. That was helping to create problems here in British Columbia with the wildfires. And we got a little bit stronger ridging around Wednesday. And then Thursday it looked like this. Height minima over the Great Lakes. And then for today, Saturday, that little trough is lifting out to the northeast and affecting New England. And it's the area between the trough and the downstream ridge that tends to have a lot of the inclement weather. So pretty much anywhere from Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, eastward to Maine, I would expect there to be weather. And then on the other side to the upstream trough, the upstream ridge, we would find good weather and anticyclogenesis, high pressure at the surface, and fair weather. Well, I can bring up a chart here, like an analysis chart. We'll look at 250 real quick. I don't have these graphics really prepared very well. But this will give us an idea of the flow over the United States. You can see kind of a medium wave ridge over Nevada, so probably some warm weather at this time there in Nevada. And the jet stream itself, way up north from the Dakotas into Pennsylvania, and we can see 100, yeah, it looks like about 100 knots right there in northern West Virginia and eastern Ohio. So the strongest baroclinicity is in the east, and that's continuing to push out of the forecast area here. Here's another look at the upper level ridge at 200 millibars. And since the weather is pretty quiet, I'm just going to give this kind of a cursory glance. You can see a little bit of a low-level jet trying to get it established. About 25, 30 knots there. And how about that? We're getting charts for this evening. That's one of the benefits of doing a late show. You get all this up-to-date data. And then the 925 chart looking like that. Looks like a 35-knot wind right there at Springfield. So they definitely have some moisture and warm air advection. Yeah, there's the visible image, pretty much blank. You can see one little corner of sunshine. That's kind of cool. You can see textures there. Yeah, in fact, let me try something here. I'm going to change off to the hemispheric sector, and that's kind of a very neat shot right there. You can kind of maybe look at Hawaii. And there's the Big Island and Oahu and some of those other islands there. It looks pretty neat. Then I'll look at Alaska real quick. And these are kind of interesting to look at because you can really see the shadowing. There's very strong tilt when you're viewing near the horizon like that. So sometimes you'll see some very interesting features. And yeah, you can see a little bit of the midnight sun up there. Now that's kind of neat. That's Victoria Island, and then this is that peninsula coming up from Hall Beach. So I can't quite see the North Pole here. It's kind of cut off there at the top, unfortunately. But yeah, that kind of shows where the light is this evening. Okay, we usually take a look at the dust this time of year, and you can see the usual plume coming off West Africa there. A little bit of haze there in Florida. I can see what probably looks like a little bit of concentration right there. And also in Texas. And you'll notice that the satellite cannot really determine the dust concentrations within the clouds, so it leaves those blank. For example, right here at the top. So we just kind of have to infer the presence of dust in that area right there. And actually, in this case, that's going to be smoke. And man, look at that smoke there. I don't think I've ever seen red quite that extensive, this deep red color, all the way from Vancouver Island, or whatever that is. I think it's Vancouver Island, all the way down to Idaho. Let me put on the state lines. Yeah, all the way to Yellowstone. Would have been really cool to pull up a webcam in this area right around sunset. I bet that would have been pretty phenomenal. Okay, I do have one other satellite graphic. Let me put that up. And that shows the thunderstorms out over Oklahoma there in Kansas. And you can see the colder tops on these updrafts. So if you're lacking radar data, or you're forecasting for an area that doesn't have any radar, like in Mexico, well, they do have radar in some areas, but the network has been kind of degraded there because of the federal government there being, tightening the reins with the civil war there. Places like that, you can kind of just look at the colder tops, and that'll tell you where the updraft is, where you see the very strong temperature gradients. So like here, that's some very strong temperature gradient, and also in here. Now that's not a strong gradient. So that's just going to be outflow. That's just an anvil detached from the updrafts there. So this will kind of give you an idea where the potent updrafts are. So definitely still some good activity going on right here around. I'm trying to see if I can remember that town. Northwest of Mexico City. I forgot. I don't know Mexico very much, but anyway. Let's take a look at the chat and see what we got going on. A couple of night owls here. I didn't expect very many people on tonight, and I'm surprised we have about 15 on right now. We have Justin here and Ryan joining late. It's after midnight there. Justin says, how's your weekend going? I don't know if that's to Ryan or to me, but as far as things here, for anybody that's curious, I'm working on digital atmosphere and went out to dinner with a family this evening and just basically catching up. Ryan says tropics are lighting up with development. Mick there in Australia saying good day. Chris Lasakis saying hi, and SPC Kingsport, good morning Eastern Daylight Time after midnight. Kevin McKinney here. Ryan saying it's slow at the moment at his office. August heading into the slow season the next 3 months. So you're talking about flying, I think, there, right, Ryan? I'm trying to remember what the peak aviation movement month would be, and I'm guessing, I always thought October and November was kind of busy, because I think some of the actually, I don't really know, so never mind. That's just a statistic I thought I heard a couple months ago. David Holcomb made it to the webcast. Fun with Tech is here. Mike Estwick in Denver. Plowable Hill up in Evergreen. Ancient Astronaut reporting 99 at Canyon Lake today. Late streams work for Mick, 2 p.m. Yeah, 2 p.m. in Australia. It's definitely a very reasonable time there. Okay, let's see. I want to bring up some radar. And I guess we're going to have to do Wichita. Looks like some of the stronger cells are in that area. Why did they put the radar here? Radar needs to be here. I don't know who came up with the site plans. Same problem in Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma is a little bit better distributed. But man, we really need a radar around Woodward. And I don't know if you've ever seen the concentration of radars in Alabama. They're very dense, denser than Oklahoma. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and access the radar. So this might affect the stream a bit. And I'll let you take a look at the status down at the bottom, showing that the radar data is downloading. And there come our flood watches. Okay, the activity looks fairly... doesn't look too severe at this time. You can see a few reflectivity gradients in this area, with one with this cell here. Looks like one of the stronger cells. Some higher reflectivities in that cell right here. But other than that, these look fairly weak in terms of severe weather. And there's the velocity. It looks like there's a little bit of circulation in this storm here. The red indicating outflow, or not, I shouldn't say that, that's a dangerous word. That indicates outbound velocities from the radar. So it's moving that way. And the green has a component of motion towards the radar. That's another term I should be careful with. So there's a component of motion away from the radar, so the air could definitely be going like that. And when we compare that with where the radar is, yeah, that's definitely moving away from the radar, but it could also be moving this way. So that's about all we know is basically what direction with respect to going away from the radar we're talking about. So it looks like what we may have, due to this very tight couplet, well, I guess probably not too tight there, but we're talking about this area right there. I would say that's probably a rotational couplet, maybe a little bit of a meso. And I'm going to put a dot here. Okay, so we're not seeing very strong reflectivity gradients in here, but we could watch here for some potential development. And the other thing we would take a look at is reflectivities aloft. So we're going up to higher tilts, and I'm looking for strong velocities at higher levels. This is up at about 16,000, 21,000. So it looks like they're kind of falling off. If we saw stronger reflectivities up here, like a 20, 25,000, that would be a sign of strengthening, especially when you have higher reflectivities on top of weaker reflectivities. That would be kind of a bad situation. Okay, then we can kind of cross-check that with the next higher tilt, 0.8. And it's showing a very similar pattern. Looks like maybe a little bit of a couplet here, possibly. 41 out and 43 in, so about 80 knots a shear there. I would think that probably deserves at least maybe a warning. So that's going to be right on that leading edge, probably a little bit of an outflow boundary there also. So this area we're talking about, this is around the Bartlesville area. Ponca City, I'm sorry, no, Bartlesville is over here, isn't it? Okay, now I'm confused. Bartlesville, I thought it was in this area here. Blackwell, okay. So we'll just say Ponca City to just north of Perry there. I think Bartlesville is out here. I don't know, I can probably figure that out no, there it is. That's north of Tulsa. Okay. So anyway, those are our storms there in Oklahoma, continuing to move eastward. And let's see what they're going to be doing. Let's check out the high-resolution rapid refresh. And there we go. You can see that this is a 03Z run. So this was generated with data at 10 p.m. And that looks fairly close. The model bait. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's probably about correct there. I was about to say it was running ahead with this cluster, but I think that's about right on. So let's bring that forward. Looks to persist there pretty well until 3 a.m. And just continues moving towards Arkansas. So that stronger moisture there and that inflow, we saw those stronger low-level winds around Springfield. That's helping us sustain the storm. And it slowly starts dissipating around, maybe around 5 or 6 a.m. And there it is moving into Arkansas around 9 a.m. into the Little Rock, Hot Springs, Texarkana, and Blytheville area. And then we see a little more redevelopment after 1, 2 p.m. in Mississippi there. And some more storms redeveloping on the backside also. So it looks like a lot of rain from Tulsa, Springfield, Little Rock over the next 12 hours or so. And the southern edge of this looks like that's going to stay north of the Red River for the most part. Okay, the other thing I was going to do yesterday, and I forgot to do this, I wanted to take a look at soundings and do a 24-hour change on Fort Worth. And I can show you one way you can do this. Okay, we're going to go back to, let's see. I'm going to go back to 5:00. This is last night, 5:00. I'll click on Fort Worth. And what I'm going to do is copy this to the clipboard. Copy image. And I've got Paint Shop Pro loaded up here. So there we go. There's the Fort Worth sounding. Now the tool I'm going to use, this is going to be the old sounding. So I'm going to need kind of a faded color. And the way I apply the colors is up at the top. The first thing I need to do is go to Color Adjust. And go to Brightness. And you want to crank that brightness up because if it's black, you're not going to be able to apply color to that. Black is the absence of color. So we want to bring this brightness up about as high as we can go. About like that. Okay, so now we've got kind of a faded gray color. And now what we do is we go to Colors and Colorize. And we want to do red this time, so I'm going to change the hue. And yeah, we'll go with that there. Okay, so that gives us our old sounding. Now let's get the new sounding. I'm going to go to 6:00. So we're going to do a 24-hour change. Okay, so that's plotted. 6:00. We're going to copy that to the clipboard. Go back to Paint Shop Pro. So keep in mind it's in the clipboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the top. We're going to go to Edit, Paste, and then paste as new layer. Okay, so what's happening is we have the new sounding on top of the old sounding, and you can see in the layer panel here. What I want to do is switch that over to multiply. See that? Pretty cool. So now all we have to do is kind of make sure that they're matched up, and I think they are. And then we can go up to the top if we want, and then go to Merge, Flatten. And there we go. That's pretty simple. So that gives us our old sounding and the new sounding. 24-hour change. Okay, so what do we see here? We see a little bit of warming in the mid-levels from about 4,000 up to about 22,000. Looks to be about the same in the upper levels. The lower levels look almost the same. And you can see the moisture has definitely come up. So we went from about low 60s to upper 50 dew points yesterday. And now we're up to upper to mid 60s today. So that makes a big difference in the forecast. And if we work out our lifted sounding, we get something like that. So we do have a little bit of capping this evening, concentrated just under 10,000 feet, keeping things kind of shut down. And a little bit of dry air aloft that gets transported down, and that also does not help very much. And then the wind profiles, we had stronger winds in the mid-levels yesterday. Those have died off, and then the lower levels, we've gone from northeast to westerly wind. And the low-level flow looks like that's kind of died down a little bit. So that's one way you can look at your changes over 24 hours. Okay, let's head into the forecast. Okay, we don't have the full 0Z GFS run. Let me refresh this. We're only up to 48 hours right now. The models are being run as we speak. So I guess we might have to go to the 18Z data. So we'll just do that. Okay, let me take one last look at chat here. Manchi's there in Vancouver. Aviation flying slows down the next 2 months and then picks back up mid-October. Okay, so September is a slow month, and coincidentally, that's when things get slow here at Weather Graphics. Up until October and November. David Holcomb says, turn polling off after you get the GR level 2. That way it won't freeze the analysis. That's a good idea. I'll do that right now. Okay, polling is off. It's too bad it clears the radar like that. That's not really necessary. The sun was bright red today from the wildfire smoke in Vancouver. Never seen a sun so red and glowing. Mick in Australia not looking forward to summer here. The fire season shaping up as a bad one. Worst fires. Manchi's there in Vancouver says worst fires in 50 years there in British Columbia. And as we saw yesterday, or I think it was a few days ago, we were looking at the size of that fire, and it was something like 250,000 acres that were decimated. And that's about 16 by 16 miles. The Alabama radar density took a hit on April 27th. Huntsville radar went down before an EF4 tornado in Georgia. That's from Kevin McKinney. A little discussion about the fires, cigarette butts. Yeah, when the weather gets like this in British Columbia, you do have to be careful with ignition sources. Arsonists, power lines, and lightning that start most fires. Thanks for that, Mick. Carl says, remember to give a like. Yeah, please do that. Manchi says, we're smoked out. Justin says it clears the radar data so you realize that you're not live. And I think if I wrote this, I would have it give the option to just put, a little message saying old data or something like that. So, I mean, there are some options, but anyway, I don't write GR level X, so it's probably not worth complaining about. David says there's no video freezing right now at all. Now that GR level 2 is off, good. And GR level 3, much less data. Yeah, I agreed. The files are only about like 50 kilobytes instead of about 3 megs. Justin, looking forward to the new radar viewer. Yeah, thanks for that. And Carl Berghoff saying the most recent radar files are in a temporary folder. Okay, so that's good to know. All right, let's head into the forecast from the GFS. We see our baroclinic system there in Kansas. So we're looking at these thickness lines, which are analogous to temperature. It's kind of like the average temperature in the lowest 3 miles of the atmosphere. And so we can see there's a gradient up in this area, which means there's going to be a warm front down to the south, maybe something like that. I kind of think it might be like this. And then we have our cold front. And it looks like it runs something like that as a stationary front. And this is being driven by this high up here in the Canadian prairies, bringing that cool air southward. So overnight, the MCS shifts into Arkansas. The baroclinic system also moves eastward. And then for tomorrow night, we see the baroclinic system in Oklahoma. So probably something like that there. Then for Monday, still we have an open wave there in Texas. We haven't really broken off much of a low pressure system there in the Ohio Valley. There might be one here in Kentucky. I'm not sure if that would be correct. The cold front definitely sinks southward through the Panhandle. Very easy to see it there. Yeah, it looks like that kind of trails off through Arkansas, and then it appears kind of obscured by this large outflow area here. A lot of cells going up in that area, and the old cold pool from the Memphis storm in that area. Then for Tuesday, still low pressure, a little bit of a wave there in the Dallas area, so precipitation chances continuing through the beginning of the weekend. Looks like a little bit of a meso high there in Nebraska. Maybe something like that there. On Wednesday, we go forward, and you can see a system coming up from the Gulf there off the bottom. So it looks like even the GFS is picking up on something coming through that area. And I'll try to take a look at the NHC product here after this. And whatever that is down there comes up into the mountains later in the week. Pretty quiet in Texas. We return to cyclogenesis there, kind of a lee side system. A little bit of baroclinicity in that area. And for the weekend, another wave coming into the southern plains, maybe into Arkansas, southern Missouri. High pressure coming in behind. This appears to be a little bit more of an active system. Looks like now we have a wave moving into the Great Lakes. So that's going to be on Saturday. And then on Sunday, the 13th, there's our wave right there in the Great Lakes. Occluded low right there in the Lake Huron area. And then on the tail end, some kind of front in Texas once again. And then you see the return to a different pattern up in Canada with low pressure up to the north. And that's a big change from what we have right now, which is where we have a lot of high pressure in that area. Okay, so it looks kind of wet for Texas and Oklahoma. We're just pushing boundaries down in this area. And that really disrupts any tropical flow coming up from the north. Provides a little bit of a lift source. And maybe a little bit of isentropic ascent. When you have denser air but beneath, your flow just off the ground, like at 4,000 to 5,000, will tend to ascend over that dense air. So that's kind of what we have going on there. Okay, a look at the tropics. We'll take a look and see a couple forecast areas. We have this one that the GFS is picking up on, 50% chance of formation, and that's taking it, well, no forecast, but they've got a west-northwest movement, so yep, that looks like it's heading right to the Bay of Campeche. Then we have this other easterly wave moving to the west. Yeah, the west-northwest at 15 miles an hour. So that's about 300 to 350 miles of progress every day. And if you want to measure that out on the chart, keep in mind that 10 degrees of latitude, that's about 600 nautical miles. So if we want to measure 300 miles of movement, 350, it's going to be about like that. So we can expect this wave to be about right here tomorrow. So that's a very quick way to predict that. Okay, one last look at the chart and then we'll be done. Thomas Fortner would rather not drive through rain. Spectacular, but spooky. Oh, what did our... Let me see where our camera went. Yeah, I don't know if anybody was able to spot in the bushes here. A little bit of a gag to keep everybody awake this evening. Okay. Banshee is protected by tires. Talking about the lightning, driving through lightning. Ryan says need to keep a watch on these waves. Banshees misses lightning, rarely gets thunderstorm activity in Vancouver. Flash flood warning north of Ponca City from Kevin McKinney. Conditions changing slowly in the Atlantic, allowing the waves to develop further. And David Holcomb says, nice skull. Banshees remembers his last supercell was on a high-rise roof in Boston in '95 before I moved to Canada. Okay, well, I got to get working on my charts, so let me find my music here. I should have queued that up. I got into kind of a big hurry putting the webcast together. And there we go. Anyway, I appreciate you all watching the webcast, and we'll be back once again tomorrow at 8 p.m. Have a good evening.